Welcome to Best Life Ever, the podcast with your hosts, Kimi and Pua. And today we have an amazing interview for you guys. We are so thrilled to bring you this interview with Ryan Charaba. Ryan is a husband, father, transformational coach, and retired Navy chief. His passion for helping people achieve their greatest is only surpassed by his love for his family. As a coach, he operates from a place of can and responsibility to move people to chase after their dreams as if their lives depended on it. An aspiring author, Ryan wants his story to be heard by those waiting to make the biggest choices in their lives in the hopes that they will make these choices in spite of themselves. He believes in a world where challenges are met with a tenacity that truly burns within all of us and believes that your dreams are just a series of choices away.
Before we dive into this epic interview, we are so excited to share with you that today's episode is brought to you by Best Life Ever's subscription service, BLE Fix. If you guys haven't heard yet, BLE Fix is a monthly subscription for motivated individuals like you who want to transform their personal and professional lives in a convenient, easy, and fun way that fits your modern on-the-go lifestyle. This subscription is full of weekly live trainings with us, tips, tools, and resources to help you increase your efficiency and productivity, feel less busy and more fulfilled, and create more time for the things that matter most. Head on over to kimiandpua.com/thefix and get locked in.
All right, without further ado, here is Ryan. Welcome, Ryan. It is so great to have you on the podcast.
I am excited to be here, for sure.
Well, yeah. So, you and I know each other through our mutual friend and business/life coach, Hang, who actually we've had her on the podcast as well. And we were just before we started recording, kind of trying to remember the last time we saw each other, but certainly we spent some time up in the mountains with Hang. Just kind of that was probably about, as we just decided, maybe about a year and a half ago, just kind of talking about, what our big vision was for our life. And I remember when Hang introduced us, she introduced you as one of the enlightened males that she works with. And I thought, wow. And, 10 seconds after meeting you, I'm like, oh yeah, that is exactly what you are. I mean, an enlightened male, an enlightened human, and just, you are a unicorn, really. And,
wow. Wow, that's high praise.
It is. You are certainly our people, and we're so honored and excited to be able to spend a little time with you today and just hear what you've been up to and share your amazing energy with our Best Life Ever tribe.
I am excited to be here. I appreciate that, and I remember that it's so funny you bring that up about the enlightened males thing, and I've always kind of got like this bit of an eye rolling because I was Hank's first male client. And I remember how that happened. I was going through some rough stuff in my life about 3 years back, and she fortuitously fell into my lap via a gift, actually. And we had spent a day together doing some coaching and some breaking through. And then I remember at the end when we were about to part ways, we're just kind of looking at each other, and she's like, do you want to work with me more? And I'm like, yeah, I think we should probably do this. And then it just started this really amazing relationship. And pretty much everything. I mean, this isn't a true statement, but the trek upward into the clouds definitely started on that day. So it was really, really amazing and exciting to do the work with her. And I'm really excited to be here, and I appreciate you guys having me and reaching out. I'm super excited. So ready.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We were just saying earlier off the record, but it was enough to say it again. I have never met you. I don't know you. I've spoken to you for all of 5 minutes, but yeah. I just love you.
I appreciate that, Pua. I appreciate that.
I can feel your energy and your awesomeness and your unicornness through the wires and through the internet. So thank you so much for being with us today. It's going to be really fun getting to know you. I can already tell.
Yeah, I'm excited. So yeah, for sure. And I'm excited. I've listened to the podcast before, and I listened to the first, I remember that day that me and Kimmy met, I got called into work like at lunch. And on the way there, I was like, oh, I'm going to check this podcast out. I remember I listened to like the first episode and a half of your guys' podcast. Your first one, what was it called? Was this a different one or is this the same one?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that was Hot Better Pop back then.
Hot Better Pop. Yeah, it was Hot Better Pop. I listened to the first episode because it was like an hour and a half round trip. And I was like, oh, let's check this out. And I've always been interested in doing my own podcast. I just have yet to pull the trigger on it. And I think the biggest thing for me is I struggle to work alone. And I'm always much better working with a person to kind of bounce ideas off and talk back and forth. And then, so who knows?
Yeah, well, we are here to support you for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. So, and I'm also making a note of unicornness to Google that to be sure that I have that idea locked in and exactly what that means.
Yes.
I joke.
We are adding it to the dictionary right this moment.
Yep. Unicorn.
with your photo.
Is it unicorn? Ness, is it 2 N's or 1?
My gut says 2.
My gut says 2.
These are good questions.
They are.
They are.
Yeah.
Tip of the iceberg, my friend.
Because Webster's going to want to know.
Absolutely. We'll give them everything they need.
Cool.
All right, Ryan. Well, we are so thrilled to have you. And as our first question, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself? And I'm really curious to hear about First Wake Up as well.
Oh, snap. Okay, so I've recently retired from 20 years in the Navy. Actually, let's back up a little farther than that. I'll tell you the whole superpower adoption story. I was born in Washington State. I was born in Eatonville, Washington. It's like a one-stop light town to this day. And from there, I immediately started moving around. People asked, my father was in the military. He was not. We were just really poor. We didn't have any money. My parents were 18 when they had me. And then by the time they were 20 and a half, 21, they had my brother, Eric, and my sister, Crystal, as well. And because we were poor, my dad did sheetrock and drywall and did tree planting as well. So we would always move to wherever the contract was. And when the contract would end, for my father, we would end up moving around. So by the time I was 18 years old, right before I joined the Navy, I'd moved 36 times.
Wow.
And as you can imagine and understand, because everybody has their thing, that could be very detrimental to some certain case. And for me, a very long time it was. And out of rebellion and not wanting my parents to tell me what to do anymore, I joined the Navy to, do 20 years of other people telling me what to do, which is both ironical and providential at the same time. So I did 20 years in the Navy, and First Wake Ups came about in the submarine force, which is what I was a member of. You work an 18-hour day. And the way this works is you work a 6-hour shift and then you have 12 hours off. So if you work from noon to 6 p.m., you'll get off watch. Then you'll be off watch from 6 p.m. to 6 in the morning. And then you work from 6 in the morning until noon. And then you'll get off watch for 12 hours. And then you work from midnight to 6 a.m. And it kind of rotates backwards. Does it make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And so then so in theory, you're on watch for 6 hours. You're off going for 6, where you're doing maintenance, you're studying, you're exercising, you're doing your leisure time, you're working out, whatever. And then in theory, the 6 hours oncoming, you're asleep. And then that can kind of vary and alter depending on the day, if there's drills or cleanup or et cetera. Yet you do not wake yourself up on submarines. Because if you had 130 guys that are all on different schedules and they all had their own alarm, birthing would just be beep, 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 beep all the time. And it's already stressful enough. So they send the most junior guy in the ship around to wake you up. And the way it would go, for example, hey, Kimmy, hey, Pua, it's 04:30. This is your first wake up. And so very early on, submarining, there's 3 things that are true. Your sleep schedule is always in flux. The food is not great, and there's no sunlight. And if you read any scientific literature, the top 3 things that spark your serotonin production are sleep, food, and sunlight. Big surprise. So everybody down there's already grumpy anyways. And so now when you got some 18-year-old who doesn't even know what your name is, hey, Ryan, it's supposed to be 0430, yet I'm waking you up 25 minutes late. This is your first wake up. It's like it's like the worst alarm clock ever. So this is your first wake up became a metaphor for all of the crappy things in the submarine force that made the job really stressful. And it was these little things that kind of stuck out that were like these tiny little thorns, was just, kind of made for a very grumpy atmosphere, And so for a long time, me and my friends would make jokes about making this TV show that would be like one part Band of Brothers, one part Scrubs, called First Wake Ups. And it would just be about all the, if you're walking down a tiny little passageway and you snag your belt loop and it tears off and you freak out. It was originally this big joke that we had, a way of laughing at ourselves to keep ourselves sane, per se. And so as the years went by, and the more I thought about this, and then at about 17 and a half years in, this is probably a month before I met Hang, and then probably about 4 months before I met Hua, I had a classic Jerry Maguire moment on the ship. That's the best way I can describe it. A senior officer, me and him did not see eye to eye at all. Me and him had been kind of going back and forth with this struggle of vision for about 4 or 5 months. And I walked by the wardroom and I heard him saying some unchoice words about me. And I looked through the little window that looks into the room, and I was looking at him, and I was like seething and foaming. I'd been on the boat for 36 hours, and I made a choice in that moment to lose my, can I swear?
You can.
I made a choice moment in that moment to lose my shit and bust through the door and started screaming at this guy and, told him all these really, really nice things that I think about him. And then my two other below him bosses were kind of like their messages from him. That would always report to me how I was displeasing him because he wasn't able to really say it to my face. So I challenged him. I was like, hey, I'm right here in more colorful ways. Why don't you say it to my face? And blah, 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 blah. And then I quit. I quit that night. I chose in a job as a chief petty officer in the United States Navy, in a position in the Navy which really, really upholds its standard of never quitting. I knocked on the captain's door the next morning and told him that I was done. And that I wasn't going to toe the line anymore. I didn't agree with what we were doing anymore. I hadn't agreed for probably 17 years with what we were doing and the way that we were doing it. And in a organization that is always short on time and money, they always take that lack out of sailors' backs, which is something, and I hold sailors very, very near and dear to me. And I was just done. I couldn't do it anymore because every morning I would point my truck towards the base. I would consider yanking it over the guardrail into oncoming traffic. And at that point in my life, I couldn't do it anymore. There was just no part of me that it had destroyed previous relationships. And my son at the time was living with his mother in Connecticut. And it was just all this Leadership, however, was always really important to me. And I was very, very good at it. It was always kind of surprising to me that I could take this ragtag group of vagabonds and misfits, in which I believe the enlisted Navy is, and accomplish these amazingly large goals. However, the part that always killed my soul was that it was always on somebody else's terms and always somebody else's vision. And so this thought started to spark in my head. It's like, if I'm able to take 15 to 130 men and accomplish these insanely ridiculous tasks of which nobody wants to do, what would I be able to accomplish with the same people if we were all doing something that we loved and really wanted and really cared about? And so one day, I remember waking up the next morning after I had quit and waking up and thinking, I'm never going back to the boat again. And I remember that being like, this is my first wake up. And so it has kind of evolved from this joke to this really powerful and meaningful, like, hey, that kid waking you up half hour late into your crappy life is like a sign, I hope that's not too loud, like a snap, like, hey, this is you're not supposed to be here. You should be doing something else. There's more out there for you. Or when that person cuts you off in traffic and you freak out, like, hey, that's your emotions telling you that there's a higher purpose and you should maybe be in a different place. And this guidepost that's built into the center of your chest is constantly letting you know whether you're on the right path or you're a foot or two to the left of it. Because in my opinion, you're never very far from where you should be. Yet that dissidence left or right can cause really, really tumultuous times in any one of our lives. And so I met Hang like a month later. And then from that moment, I was like, this is what I want to do. And that year that I spent with her, we spent building my program. And based on my experience and the leadership skills that I thought are really helpful and the leadership skills that I think are really not helpful. And coming from a military background, it's very easy for me to go to a place of foot up ass. And to a certain extent, I really believe that that's useful as long as it's productive, albeit most people respond to that effectively for a very short amount of time. And reaching a hand down to help, I find is much more productive, and people respond to it much more on the long term. And it's too important not to be open and honest with everybody about the real things that happen in your life. And because I think, especially in today's culture, with everything you're seeing on the news and the mass division that we have in our country and culture, just here in the United States as well as worldwide, that the more we talk to each other, the more we're honest with each other, the more that we are really honest, open, and transparent about who we are, the more we're going to realize, like, you're just like me. We actually feel very similar about everything else. So I know I drug on probably for like 16 straight minutes. However, that's where I'm at now. And, taking people from perceived mediocrity to lives truly of greatness and just being great in spite of themselves is my biggest passion, my biggest love. And as far back as I can remember, inspiring people to do more was always kind of my gift. Like inside my family, my mother and father were always fighting about money. My brother threw tantrums. My sister was always hiding out. And I was always the guy like, hey, we can do this. We can keep it together. And, out of this weird sense of duty. However, now I'm doing it. I'm signing my own paycheck and it's exciting. And,
wow.
Yeah, whoever you got, like, let's do this. I'm excited. No matter what the goal is, like, I want to make it happen. So,
wow.
There you go. I hope that answers your question.
It's just such an amazing, amazing story and so beautiful. And I just love the way it's, that whole concept of a first wake up. It's taking something that can feel very painful and you've reframed it in a way of it's a positive thing. It's something that opens you up to, like, that pain can be our friend because it may be the thing that we need to open us up to our greater potential. And how poetic and beautiful that now you're helping other people to do the same for you. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about how, in what ways, from that courageous or just inspired moment of impulse where the pain was so great that you had to explode, if you will, and make a big change. How is your life different now from how it was? And obviously immediate feedback from the universe or whatever was meeting Hang within a month of that decision. But how else has your life transformed?
I've been divorced twice. And like I said, my son has, up until 2 years ago, was living with his mom in Connecticut. And after that happened and I met Hang, really I think the most basic and simple way to describe it is I've started making choices on my behalf. And the more I did that, the more that I learned that when you make choices on your behalf and do what is best for you, and not in like a selfish way, and selfish is a whole other discussion, the more you're doing things that are best for you, the more you'll find that they're just as beneficial for the people that are closest to you. And the biggest thing immediately after that is that I met McCare and had this amazing relationship. I'd actually met McCare about a year and a half prior to that. Yet there was all this leftover stuff of uncertainty and my lack of self-worth. And am I going to be a good mate? Is this going to fall apart just like the rest of everything? And yet in the beginning, I remember McCare, we sat down at our first date and she sat down across from me, and McCare's someone whom I considered an awake person. And they set our drinks down on the table and she looks right in my eyes and she's like, "Why did your marriage fail?" And I was like, "Oh, snap." And I was like, this is not first date talk. And however, something was like, this is kind of different. And I just went with it. And I told her the truth. I told her all the truth. And then she told me her truth. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. Because like now there's nothing to hide. And so that's like a metaphor going forward from that point, even with my honest explosion on the ship, to the way I talk to my son, to the way me and McCare communicate to each other now, to the way I talk to people at the grocery store, like asking people, how are you doing today? And actually meaning it. And so really this just whole honesty transformation, I have the most amazing relationship that I've ever had in my life and that I thought that I could ever have. Some months after I Jerry Maguired on the boat, my ex-wife calls me up and says, "Hey, I'm not sure what you changed, but we can see it over here 5,000 miles away. And I think your son really needs to be with you right now." And so forgive me and not forgiveness for getting emotional on your show right now. However, like that moment when she calls me, it's like, I'm really finally walking in the right direction. You know, I was always taking steps forward. However, it was just always with such weight and just guilt and shame, and every step thinking, oh, I know I should probably walk in that way, except I'm moving this way because I feel the societal pressure, or oh, I've got to stick it out because I've only got 6 more years left to get 20, or, you know, don't tell everybody how crappy your relationship is because you've been divorced 2 times, and then once I was able to shake all that off and be like, who cares? And then kind of wrap that back around to the beginning about, my story is no different than yours. I know both of you, I'm sure. And I know, Kimmy, me and you have talked about this a little bit, have terrible former relationship stories, you know, and you said that a few minutes ago that the pain can be our ally. Forgive me for correcting you. Pain is your ally. It is the thing that instigates this amazing change in us. And I see so many people's top value is just seeking pleasure. I'm just going to do drugs or screw women, or, you know, money, or I need the newest Tesla because this is the thing that's going to complete me, when it's not, because that constant pursuit of pleasure is the most easy thing to achieve, yet it's the most simple thing to lose. And I've gone off this terrible segue, and I'm going to tie back up to the actual answer to this question. Is the most amazing relationship. My daughter just turned 2.5 weeks ago. My son lives with me. I'm currently working for myself, and I'm building the most amazing relationships, and I'm running headfirst with a plan and a purpose into challenge instead of straying away from it and avoiding it, which everybody knows to some certain level that that's just not something that you can do. And yeah, I'm going to stop there and let you guys your moment to speak, because this is your show.
I would listen to you for hours.
I know.
I got to tell you.
I appreciate that. It's,
God, it's so amazing.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, what what I have learned about you in the short time that I've been speaking with you is you're so present. And I think it maybe took 17 years to understand that. And I love what you said earlier. You said that you have a guidepost built into the center of your chest, right? Mm-hmm. And like it, and you said that you're never that far from where you should be, and that, you were always moving forward, but it was so hard. And now you're moving forward and it's so light and joyful and easy. And it's just, it's a story that so many people can resonate with, because I think in this day and age when things are expensive and life feels very heavy, we just think, okay, we'll just keep working because you're almost to that next promotion, or you're almost to that next place where you can retire in 5 years, or, it's that trudging forward when we're really just a couple of side steps away from something that's so joyful.
Yes.
And
completely totally agree.
And I love... So what I kind of feel is your coaching style, and we were talking a little bit before we recorded. I'm wondering if you can share a little bit more with our listeners about, what your coaching style is, who you coach for. And I just love how you said that, who are you? What are your dreams? What are your visions? Let's make it happen. Like, That's all anybody ever wants to hear, right?
That's it.
So awesome.
Yeah, and it comes with a side of cuddling if you order extra. So it's easy, So somebody asked me these 3 questions a couple years back, and they changed my life. And this per se is like the root of everything that I coach by. And every single day I read something or listen to something that adds onto this, but this is the basis. And when I do consults with people, and whether they want to work with me or not, I say, if you answer these 3 questions every single day, your life is going to change. And so here's the questions, and I'll expound on them a little bit. Question 1, and you guys can play along if you'd like. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your life? And the number that popped into your chest at this moment, just stick with it. It's too important just to pay attention to that guidepost, whatever it fires. And the purpose of that question at the most caveman level is just being honest with yourself. This is my point A. Today I'm at a 5, because in this moment with you two, I'm at a 10.5, and we're pushing through the ceiling. So question number 2, what could you be open to? Not should be open to or need to be open to. What could you be open to improve your number? And as the Rolodex in your mind is like flipping through the things, and you're both experiencing that right now, I'm confident of that. Mm-hmm. So question number 3, and most important, what lies are you telling yourself to keep you from acting or choosing into question number 2, thus keeping your shitty number, like generally the average people say is like 4 or 5, like they're just getting by. They're trudging along, just like you said. They're carrying this weighty backpack full of nothing that they could just let go and go to yoga class, or record a podcast, or type a Facebook post, or tell your boyfriend you're not happy, or whatever. And it's really at the basis of that. And then aside from those questions, the coaching style is one of absolutely can and utmost responsibility. And I believe that when we take responsibility for every single thing that happens in our life, that the possibilities are absolutely endless and amazing. If you guys are shamelessly nerdy like I am, Ben Parker told Spider-Man right before he died, Uncle Ben,
oh my God,
with
I love
great,
you.
yeah, like I said earlier, it's not your fault. Carry on with that. It's good stuff. There's plenty for everybody. So he told Spider-Man that with great power comes great responsibility, which I think is an amazing quote. And in the context of the thing is very powerful. However, as the rest of us are sitting in the theater watching Spider-Man struggle and swing from building to building and eating our popcorn with our 3D glasses on, we're like, yeah, Spider-Man's got this unlocked because he has all the power, right? And in that moment, as we say that, we shirk off our own responsibility and we give it to Spider-Man, per se. And we play this victim card all the time. Well, I don't need to take care of this because Spider-Man's about to swoop in at any second and handle it. And so I like to flip that and say, with great responsibility comes great power. And I actually read that in a book. I completely stole it. I've adopted it. Most of the stuff I steal flat out because somebody else is out there doing it. So, that's just me being honest. And however, at the same time, like, it's just so true. Like, when somebody triggers you and your reaction is anger, like, just count backwards from 5 and then respond appropriately instead of just reacting like Jerry Maguire, and when you can do that on a practicing basis, and you're not always going to get it right per se, because right and wrong is this other gray area that we can discuss. And that when you practice that, for a day, your life changes. When you practice that for a week, your life is completely a different direction. If you do that for a straight year, you're going to freak out at how different your life would have been if you would have chosen not to take responsibility for whatever that thing is for you. So it's really it.
Wow.
It's not rocket surgery. this is what you said you want. We're going to get that thing in spite of everything. Even when you attempt to change your mind. Nope. This is what you said you wanted. And this is the reasons you said you wanted it. And this is how your life is going to be better. And look at what we've accomplished in the last 8 minutes since this conversation started. So it's too important not to take charge of all that stuff for yourself.
Wow. I love those questions so much. And,
yeah,
and the concept too of just taking responsibility in the moment and being really honest with yourself about how you're feeling, how you're doing, what is true for you. And it's almost, that it's suppressing that willingness to be honest in the moment, suppressing your truth, whatever it is, day after day after day, that leads up to the Jerry Maguire moments, right? It's like
absolutely.
It's like the boy reaches the boiling point. And I feel like in this, it's so refreshing to hear anyone talk about taking ownership of how you feel and being willing to be honest, being willing to be vulnerable. We're lucky that in this day and age, it's becoming more and more, I don't know if you want to say mainstream or whatever, for, the conversation about vulnerability. And often thanks to, I know Brené Brown has done a lot of work in this area, about how our vulnerability is our strength and how it really bonds us to others. But it's still rare for people to be, we can always go a little deeper with the work, right? And
absolutely.
And I think that I think it's particularly difficult for men to really feel comfortable being vulnerable, because as advanced as we are, and evolved as we are as a society, there's still that stigma of boys don't cry, like, be a man up. And I would love to hear your thoughts on just what it's like to be a man embracing vulnerability. Because as a mother of a son, this is something that I'm thinking about all the time. How do I raise him to feel safe being vulnerable, and to really stand in his power? Thoughts?
I have lots of thoughts, and I appreciate you bringing up Brené Brown, because I think that's a good start off. Her book, Daring Greatly, I think offers a lot of light onto shame and the way that men and women process it differently. And women, and this is speaking in generalizations, forgive me if I'm being entirely too general. However, women are very emotional with their shame, where men are very, let's push it down, Captain America style, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think one of the most, this is such a deep question. I cried on this podcast today. I will, at some point today, probably look at my daughter and cry, because I'm so happy about how awesome she is. And now I'm at a place in my life where I could be in the middle of Target and be having a tough moment with my wife and just let the emotion out, because I know now that it's too important not to. And so, however, I still believe that I'm extremely manly in the classical sense. Like, I have a motorcycle and, blah, 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 blah. And so I believe that the way to handle that, it's such a balance piece. And one of the things I like to talk about lately is empathy versus compassion, and the value of both, and how I think one is much more important. Empathy is the shared feelings with someone else, whether it be your son or your daughter, or your husband or whoever, or somebody you meet in the street. How compassion, the big thing that's different from it, is that same shared feelings, however, with a very strong portion in there that means to help and move through. And so, as far as raising a child, or especially a boy who will someday be a man, is to really get his opinion on what's going on for him, and really, really assuring him that that's okay. And however, to at an early stage teach him about his responsibilities, about those emotions, and that, hey, I understand we're taking an emotional temperature right now. However, if we stay in this emotional temperature, if it's up over 103 and we just hang out here, like, it's not going to help anything. And so there's a constructive way to get through those things. And one of the things I truly believe about emotions is that if you do not address them, then they just get suppressed to bubble over later, like you said. However, if you let those emotions be, and you really, really give yourself an opportunity to experience them, and in a way connect them to what they're really about, the goal would be, like, some people experience an emotion, they get caught up in traffic and they're angry for 22 days. And then via practice, you can experience that same event, and now you're only angry for 22 hours. And then the next time it happens, you practice again, and now it's 22 minutes and then 22 seconds. And so really, really addressing that emotions are a very human thing, really, really addressing that emotions are unavoidable, and that, to me, they're a beacon or a guidepost, very, very much attached to our lizard brain, fight or flight, and all those things. Mm-hmm. They're just saying, hey, you're just a little bit off your path. And what is the pain coming from? And where can we move to help this process more efficiently? And it's not about speed, because some things trigger me and I'm mad for like a day and a half, like, still, like, even in my amazing awakenedness, like, there's still very, very much my biggest thing. I get angry. I have a temper, and they used to throw things and kick garbage cans and break glasses. And now it's just like, I have to really, okay, you're really angry. And now when I'm angry, I'm just like, hey, McCare, I'm really angry right now. You just express that, and just, I need space, or this is why I'm angry. And then sometimes garbage can get kicked because we're human. Mm-hmm. And so just really, really shining the light on it in I don't want to say positive way. I want to say in a neutral way, in a way that's just, this is emotions and this is what they are. And just really, really giving that space and being able to hold the space for the other people, and an amazing amount of forgiveness and compassion for when we also hold those emotions ourselves, and how we react to them and our reasons. And everybody has their moved 36 times story, and kind of tying it back to giving people the opportunity to tell you who they are. So really get an understanding about who they are, and you're like, oh, okay, I understand why you're upset right now. Because if you weren't upset right now, based on the experiences in your life and the way you were constructed or put together or programmed, whichever words you want to use, it would be weird if you were acting any other way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Totally.
Like, yeah. So, and it's like, I think one of the most prevalent things is women who are victims of sexual trauma, and they hold this fear and self-worth and all this, negative stuff that comes along with that. Or they go the other way when they're like, completely fuck the police about everything. And so it's like, once you learn these things about people and you're like, oh, okay, this makes perfect sense. I understand you more as a person. I completely, and like, you're able to love each other more because we know these things, and letting people know, like, well, you're normal. You're a person. There's nothing wrong with you. Like, that's lesson one in my work. Like, tell me your story. This is how you're acting. Oh, guess what? There's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. Mm-hmm. This is just who you are. And so,
wow.
I love my,
Love it.
I feel like you guys ask me a question and I just go in some random direction and I don't even know where we are, and I don't even remember the question right now. So I hope
perfect.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. I appreciate that feedback. So good.
Totally. Isn't it funny that we as society has bred out of us our natural ability to be human beings.
Yes. Like, I agree with that 100%.
Right? Like, as babies, you have an emotion, you cry or you laugh, and you move on. Right? Like, yes. We're born with that. And we learn how to not follow our emotions, and now we have to learn how to go back and follow them and understand them and process them again. It's so funny. So thank God for people like you who are here to help us navigate that.
Shoot, it's the most important thing to me, period. Just people. And there's no association, engineering project or otherwise, blog post. It doesn't happen without people, and the experiences are too important. So
totally. Well, thank you for the service that you're bringing to the world. It's so needed, and you're just the perfect vehicle for that. This is amazing. I don't want this to end, so I'm just going to pretend that it's not going to end. And would you share a little bit with us about any upcoming projects you have, or ways that people can find out more about you and what you're doing?
Yeah, of course. The easiest way is to contact me. Firstwakeups.com is my website. I'm currently in this identity crisis of what my brand is per se. Do I want to advertise everything website, or do I just want people to talk to me? So really the most important and authentic way is to contact me and get on my calendar so we can have a conversation. So you can get in touch with me, firstwakeups.com, First Wakeups on Facebook, on Twitter, or Instagram, or whatever. I have accounts. I don't always update them. However, my most important thing right now is just filling my calendar with as many conversations as possible. As far as projects go, I have a speaking event that's yet to be officially dated. Coming up in the fall, I'm speaking at an event here in Hawaii with the association American Dream U, and they are a military transition assistance vehicle. This guy named Phil, he was former military, and so I'm speaking to some Army guys that are soon getting out, and just giving them the idea, and hopefully showing them that their skills far surpass that of field stripping a rifle, and that their dreams are really worth it. In the springtime, summertime, I'm part of a book project called The Choice, and I'm part of a mastermind called the Abundant Purpose Mastermind. And there's 12 of us that have all shared our stories, and we're putting them into one book, and we're shooting for big stuff with that. And our goal is New York Times bestseller. So we're really excited about this project and how 12 of us from different places, it's really just, hey, this is where I was, and this is what I like to call what I discovered my superpower is, and now this is what I'm doing with it. And so I'm really excited about that. As far as project goes, I am open to more opportunities, and just every person I meet, I have an open mind about what we could create together. And hopefully this podcast turns into something more, and be. So it's not a terribly long list yet. That's what I've got going on at the moment. So,
It's perfect. Wow.
Yeah.
And you can just so hear how much heart is in everything that you do. And I'm so happy for you, Ryan. It's been
so much.
Wow, so much has happened in your life since we met. And it's funny, this we love to ask this fun little question at the end of our podcast, and yet here you are, you're so authentic and vulnerable all the time that we're not sure if there's anything that anyone doesn't know about you.
I actually prepared this answer for you.
Okay, perfect.
I've
perfect.
prepared
So
this.
tell us something that no one knows about you, if such a thing exists.
It's true. People absolutely know this about me. However, you two do not, and I would love to share it because I forgot to add this to the project. I play Dungeons and Dragons weekly.
Awesome.
It's extremely important to me, and I'll tell you a real quick story. The first time I was ever angry about moving was when I moved between 6th and 7th grade, and I'd met this group of guys. I actually wrote a blog post about this, and this group of guys I'd met at this school in Yelm, Washington, taught me to play Dungeons and Dragons. And I thought this was just the coolest and most fun game ever. And at the time, it wasn't okay. You didn't play Dungeons and Dragons because you had one part, you were like the utmost nerdiest of people that did this. And then the second part, during that time in the late 80s, early 90s, there was this huge satanic panic about this game when people thought it was devil worship. And I assure you that it's not. It's really, really amazing. And I play every Friday night. My son plays. I play with friends. They live up the hill. And McCare has played. She does not play all the time. However, she's played. She's like, oh, I kind of get this. And so another one of the projects I have, I listen to this podcast called the Glass Cannon Podcast. And there's these 5 guys from New York who all realized they were friends. And they realized they all used to play Dungeons and Dragons. They're like, we're going to play Dungeons and Dragons and we're going to record it and we're going to make a podcast out of it. And it's blowing up into this huge thing where pen and paper tabletop role-playing games are the most popular they've ever been. And one of their biggest things, I'm actually involved with them underneath on the business side per se, and to spread this kind of love of tabletop. And one of our big projects is to remove the stigma from tabletop gaming, much like the same stigma. If you went into an MMA gym and you saw these guys fighting, you're like, oh, I know who these guys are. Or you see cheerleaders on the side and you're like, oh, I know who these ladies are. Or you see Kimmy and Pua who are all dolled up and freaking popping all and they're happy go, oh, I know these two girls. So there's always this stigma that goes along with everything to a certain extent. And so one of my big side projects right now is really spreading. Like, we have an event here in Hawaii on the 29th of July. It's a GCP sanctioned event. We're going to play some tabletop. We're going to hang out. We're going to go have some Thai food after and have some drinks and discuss how the people who play this game are all normal people with normal lives, and they're not just sitting in their mom's basement freaking, casting magic missile or whatever. It's just not like that. So tabletop gaming is valuable to me because I believe it is a vehicle where you can be creative and silly with your friends. You can talk in voices if you want to. You can, and it's really just this amazing collective storytelling that I don't think people realize to even the smallest percentage how deep and meaningful that these stories can be when you meet every week on a consistent basis to craft these stories, like almost out of thin air. And
wow.
So that's the thing.
Well, guess what?
That is so awesome.
I grew up in a household where Dungeons and Dragons was played. And so my parents were huge into tabletop role-playing games. And so when I was a child, they would have these parties, these fabulous parties that were so normal to me, where people would come dressed as dwarves or whatever character that they were going to be playing. And I remember as a kid, because there were all these costumes around the house, sheepskins and leather whips and all these so that was so normal to me. And so I have great love for Dungeons and Dragons and just role-playing games in general. And I think it's so great that anything that is bringing people back to connecting with each other, how awesome is that? Sure. It's what we need. It's what we're hungry for.
Yes, that's completely true. And
so my parents will be so thrilled to hear that you're playing every week, and they might want to come over. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, definitely. I'm completely open to that.
You should have a booth at the Hawaii Geek Meet. The Hawaii Geek Meet that's coming up. That's an annual event.
the Comic-Con is coming up. It's actually the same weekend that I'm doing that the GCP event.
Oh,
yeah. However, we're going to Gen Con in Indianapolis, which is like the biggest gaming convention, and I'm going in August to support the Glass Cannon podcast and what they're doing. And it's a cool bunch of guys from New York that are just regular guys like me and just have day jobs, yet we're hoping to build this into something bigger that they can go live their dreams. And so I'm secretly Mr. Miyagi them behind the curtains to be sure they get there. So it's good stuff. Yeah.
Wow. Well, like Pua said, we could talk to you forever. we really don't want this to end. So we might just have to have you back on another time because you are just,
I'd be excited about that.
You're fascinating and just such a gem. We have enjoyed this time so much. We will be sure to include in the show notes ways that people can find out more about you, start a conversation with you, find out more about all of the projects that you have going on. And any final words you'd like to share with our audience?
The final word, ask yourself those 3 questions. Scale of 1 to 10, how would you live your life? What could you be open to increase your number? And what lies are you telling yourself to not act on those? And just be honest with yourself. Just be honest. And just take a deep breath and love yourself and realize that there's nothing wrong with you and that there's help out there if you want it from your friends, your family, and just open a dialogue. Have that little bit of courage to break through whatever it is, to just open that dialogue with the people you care about the most in your life, and your life is going to improve. Whether you talk to me or Kimmy or Pua or anybody else, and it's just open, honest dialogue is the key to happiness, in my opinion. So.
Wow. Love it. Thank you so much, Ryan. We love you.
I love you guys too. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, well, we'll stay in touch for sure.
Okay, cool.
Thanks, Ryan.
Right. Mahalo, ladies. See you later.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
Yeah, no worries. No worries at all.
Work from home.
It's 2017. I'm gonna edit that out easier.
It's like that CNN guy with the baby that crawls into the room. That video.
So funny.
That's one of the most amazing things that's ever happened to that guy.
Right?
Yeah. Like, seriously, that's one of the most amazing things that could ever happen to him. Like, what an amazing opportunity to bring that whole family together on such a connected moment. And like, that's just people, like, I'm sure that there's some very professional, and I use special quote fingers around that word, people are watching like, oh man, this guy's career, and be like, who cares about his career? That's an amazing moment for him and his family, and the embracing of that is so rare. And it's so exciting. Yeah. Good for that guy.
Exactly. It's like such a raw, awesome, vulnerable moment for him.
Yeah.
And it's all over the world. It's just awesome.
Yeah.
Love
Good
it.
for him. Yeah, I love it. It's a huge opportunity for that guy. My favorite that the wife's pants were like halfway up. He's like, yeah, it was just really great. Like, I'm like watching that, and I'm like just thinking, I'm like, all right, nice. There's some good growth for you. You're welcome. Thank you, universe. So,
Oh my God.
and yeah.
Okay.
As far as I can tell, like he, handled it well. Anyways,
he did.
Totally. After they were both like totally mortified, and then they were like, "Yeah, this is life, right?"
Yeah, this life. Shoot.
Let's just leave all this in.
I know we should.
Heck yeah.